Hey, and welcome to the second EMA Q&A, live from Eliette's Music Academy in Grafton. And today we've got Michael Murphy, who's a musician, actor, multi-talented dude, who's going to chat to us about his music career and hopefully inspire some of you guys to keep doing what you're doing and give you some tips along the way. So, yeah, we're going to ask you a few questions, man. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to being incredibly inspirational.
This is great. Usually me and Mike on the other side with Mike, so doing this is different. Cool. Ellie, you're up first.
Yes. First question is, what is your first music memory?
This is quite weird, and sometimes when I actually say the story, I actually kind of almost feel like I might have been making it up. But apparently, I used to run down the streets of Taupo, where I grew up, dressed as Batman with a plastic guitar and a plastic toy microphone, singing. And it's funnily enough, I was actually in Taupo last weekend, and one of my parents' older friends who used to own a shop bought that exact memory up, so I wasn't lying.
Wow.
Which is weird. And then my next one is singing at Christmas at the church that my parents went to as a 4-year-old. Like, I got to sing Silent Night walking up the aisle of the church, which I don't. As a 4-year-old is quite. I have a 6-year-old now, and I think how weird that would be to try and get him to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's some early memories, though.
Yeah.
That's really early memories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I reckon, sometimes when your memories are kind of like looking at photographs and you and remembering stories. I don't think I can quite remember them, but I know them, and I've seen photos, so I kind of have pieced some weird stuff together in my head. So I'm kind of making a lot up, really.
I've been told I did this.
people have verified, and I swear I can remember it.
Yes, love it.
So following on from that, I was going to ask you, when did you first pick up an instrument or start singing? But I guess it was really young.
Yeah, singing was really young. As I say, the extent of my instrumental skills probably ended with the Batman costume and the plastic guitar as sort of 3 or 4-year-old on the streets of Taupo.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I was one of those people. So this is actually, if I'm going to inspire you to do anything, anyone watching this, it's to stick at the instrument that you were learning at present. For me, singing was easy and guitar was hard, and I had this really great old guitar teacher, and we basically just sat and yarned about rock music for the full hour, and my parents paid for it for 3 years.
Oh, no.
And at the end of that 3 years, all I could do was play the solo from Scar Tissue.
That's a pretty that's sort of advanced.
Oh, it's pretty simple. It's like there's that's
I can play something.
it was about it, to be honest. No, I can play small amounts of guitar, unfortunately, but I really should have. Don't be like me, team. Learn that instrument and learn it through to its bloody end. Because I can tell you, there is not a day that goes by that goes, man, I wish I could play the guitar properly.
Yeah.
Or the piano. I did start that as a kid too, but the school that I went to, so this is why this school's way better than the one I went to. The school that I went to only did 3 years, and I started as a 5 or 6-year-old or something, and went to my whatever, and went through my 3 years, and then literally it stopped for some reason. That was when the course finished, and I now to this day have no recollection. I remember being a 4-year-old apparently, but no recollection of how to play the piano, and I was apparently quite good then. But so I was told.
You can bring it back, man.
No, I can't. I've tried. I'm absolutely rubbish.
You know where to come for lessons then.
Yeah. I will literally book in with you. Probably one of your 5-year-old classes, to be honest. It's about where I stopped. Can me and Nick just talk about rock music? I'll get my mum to
We
pay.
can do that, yeah. we do that anyway.
Yeah. There we go. My mum's not paying yet.
Love it.
What were your musical experiences at school? Did you perform in choirs, bands, etc.?
Yeah, and funnily enough, I was actually just talking to my wife about this the other day. I was part of a youth, a kids kind of choir theatre company type thing as a kid growing up in Taupo, and we had choirs and things like that. And I actually think so. My job now is a musician, and I'm a session musician for work. And a big part of what I do is having to break down songs and work out the harmonies and things like that. And I swear that my ability to find harmony and things like that comes from being in choirs as a kid. And I know, like, you know, even I think, like, oh man, I don't want to put my kid in a choir, but really, it was such an integral part of what I've managed to do, and a big part of how I do what I do now. Like, a big part of Written by Wolves, my band, is the harmonies that I put in around everything else. And I think that came from being in choirs as a kid. So we did that, and then I did a lot of musical theatre as well as a kid. I was actually a trained boy soprano before my voice broke, like classical kind of singer.
Yeah, cool.
And then my voice broke, and I kind of broke my classical teacher's heart.
Yeah.
And finally, like, delved into my love of heavy rock music. And once I started high school, I was straight into a band, and I kept up with the musical theatre side of things and the acting side of things. But yeah, the rock band took over everything else, and that was it from there on in.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
Converted.
We do a lot of musical theatre classes here. We also do like a choir.
Yeah.
We're going to start up a kids choir again, which we used to do.
Do you know what is cool now though as well is that there's cool choirs now.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
don't like there's choirs that don't just do really sort of
Like hymns.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I recently there's a choir stemming choir, and they like it's a lot of, like, every year they do like a classic album. So I performed at this Smashing Pumpkins one,
So
and it was super rad. And so there's this choir backing you, and we were at Q Theatre and did like
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, super cool.
That would have been awesome.
So there's cool choirs now.
Yeah.
Be in a choir, learn to do harmonies. There you go. I went very long way to come back to say that.
Yeah, and then you did Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So there you go.
Brilliant. Everything, all the stars aligned on that.
Yeah.
man. Okay, so jumping in now, you had great success in the first New Zealand Idol. It was the first one, right?
It was, yes.
Yeah, and you finished runner-up.
I did.
Yeah, to Mr. Lummis.
Yeah, I feel like when you really emphasise that this was the second version of this podcast,
Right.
that's where I actually felt like you were trying to stab me a bit there.
No, not at all.
Oh, yeah.
That was a massive
Yeah,
achievement,
So
man.
Ben did the first one, I assume.
It's
No,
not
but
a coincidence.
no, but that was a massive achievement, man. But we wanted to know, like, was it a positive experience as a whole? And like, would you recommend, young people now doing those types of shows?
Oh, look, this is an interesting one because I get asked this every day, basically. I was 17 when
Yeah.
I was on that show, and so I didn't actually finish high school. I went on to that, and I cannot say a bad thing about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Awesome.
I mean,
Amazing.
there's going to be negative experiences in anything you do. Like,
Mm.
there's literally nothing that you can do that you're not going to have an entirely 100% positive experience. And I hope that's not an unfortunate thing to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, it set me up for life essentially. Like, I haven't had a job since then. Music's been my job since I did that.
Cool.
And I, still to this day, I'm still working with people that I worked on that show. I still call people that were on that show and go, hey, I need to do this or I need that, or, and it made me lifelong friends and lifelong sort of people that I can call on
That's so cool, man.
in
Yeah.
any given moment. And people still know my name from that, which is weird. It doesn't really matter what else I do in life.
Yeah.
People still seem to call me by that guy. I'm like that guy that was second on New Zealand, or they can't remember if I won or not.
Yeah,
Like,
sorry, mate.
oh, did you win? Like, nah, mate. But I might just start telling people I did and telling people I'm Ben
See what
Lummis, I
happens.
reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that. No, they're not
not
that
Michael,
Michael
I'm
guy.
Ben,
That
yeah.
guy was bloody rubbish.
Yeah.
But no, it was
No,
great.
that sounds great.
And
yeah.
I think it's really important now to, especially in this country has an issue with kind of embracing those sorts of things, and we really like to kind of chop it down a bit.
Yeah.
But I think we're in this constantly changing music universe right now.
Yeah.
Like, the world is a very different place.
Yeah.
And New Zealand sort of sometimes has this really real intense idea of how you should attack being a musician. And when I was 17, I didn't want to go on that show, and I said, no way in hell am I doing that. And my mum and dad said to me, look, if you want to do this as a job, which you've said that for your, like, this is what you want to do for life,
Mm.
they were like, then you have to take every single opportunity that comes up for
Yep.
you. And this is an opportunity. And they signed me up, and they were still, I was still under
Amazing.
18, so they had, if they signed it, I basically had to do it.
Oh
Well,
my God.
they had to sign it anyway, so it was basically like, and you know, I'll kind of never forget that foresight, and it's something that I've probably tried to take on forever now, and it's
Yeah.
been a big part of my career. You know, don't say no to a hell of a lot.
No.
Yeah.
And because I mean, especially in this country, it's kind of you just gotta work really hard at everything you do, and
sure.
so
Yeah.
any opportunity, you know, you might be tired, but you might have something that, you know, you might feel like you have to sacrifice to do it,
Yeah.
but if you want it, you do it.
Yeah, man,
You know?
for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, that exactly. And we say that to students a lot is, if you're going to make a life out of music, you're not just going to be in like a band in New
Yeah.
Zealand. You've
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
do
yeah.
multiple
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
You know, it's like I've met you a long time ago of us playing shows, but we're still doing music full time, but we're doing multiple things.
But everyone's doing different
Yeah,
things, and
exactly.
but that's also fun. Like
Yeah.
people kind of look at that like, oh, you have to do this and that to make it work, but
It
it's like,
keeps it
man,
interesting, though.
that's just
Yeah.
right.
You
Like
know?
how cool is it to kind of just go, oh, you know, I want to do this aspect of what I love doing now
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
this opportunity's come up, and I'm going to take that, and it means I'm not going to get bored of this part.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
incredible, and you know, we're very very privileged as musicians to be able to have that to call on.
Exactly. And if you might work with someone in a different part of the industry that can help you out in another side of it, right?
Oh,
Mm.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, you know, everyone's got their fingers in pies, and everyone's,
Yeah.
you know,
Totally.
and that is important. And it, you know, and we always bring it back to New Zealand being kind of small, but it is universal
Yeah.
for the
Mm.
music industry. You know, it's, you know, everyone's working on something else and working
Yeah.
on, but and not even always just to kind of keep themselves going or to keep the business side of things running, just to keep them sane.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
like you do anything for too long, and it doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be anything like that. You do anything, and
Mm.
you know, you need to break it up every
Yeah.
now and again.
Yeah,
exactly.
You need to mix it up for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of our parents of students are concerned with like how do we make it work in the industry? You know, like how is my child going to have security and make it work? Yeah, they love music, but actually how do you do that? You know, but then all of our teachers are working session musicians or producers or teachers, and like you say, they have fingers in all different sort of pies.
Mm.
And it keeps it fun and exciting, and it's not a 9 to 5 where you might be counting numbers all day. But
Yeah.
you know, like is there security in that as well? You know,
And traditionally, I think it is seen as a scary industry. You know, like it is one that it's like that people would see as a hobby.
Yeah.
But I think the world's only getting more and more accessible. You know, I mean, how many people now have a studio in their spare bedroom or
Exactly.
their bedroom
yeah,
or,
so
or
cool.
and especially after what's happened in the last 2 years. I mean, most of my session work overnight became from my house, and I didn't having a studio at home was something that I always knew that I wanted.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm probably never going to find the time to do it.
Mhm.
I work really closely with a few different studios in Auckland, and I can call them,
Yep.
call on them
Yeah.
at any point basically, and be able to come in and record.
Yep.
You know, if it's for me, or they can call me and I can be in there tomorrow to do something.
Yeah.
But literally, when everything hit, I got one of the guys I work for called and was like, hey, you talk about that studio all the time that you're going to set up. And I was like, oh, yeah. He was like, how serious are you? And I was like, well, I've ordered some stuff, and, I'll go pick it up, and I'll use it as my kind of lockdown project.
Yeah.
And he was like, right, you got 24 hours,
Oh
because
my
I'm
God.
sending you your first job tomorrow.
Wow.
And so that was it. We just had to,
Yeah.
we quickly ran to Kmart, and, like, everyone was panic buying toilet paper, and I was trying to find things to soundproof a room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which went, a few different ways. But
Yeah.
like with every lockdown, it's just become more and more, and I've upskilled, and we've kept upgrading stuff and things like that. And now so much of our session work we actually just do from home.
Just
now.
do from home.
My
Yeah.
Cool.
I say we because my wife is a singer as well.
Yep.
And so we kind of, we get a job, we do it, and then we do it that minute.
so
You
cool.
know, unless we've got doing something else.
Yeah,
But
I feel like the lockdown was actually quite positive for heaps of musicians in
Yeah.
that regard. Like a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, I know it wasn't easy for everyone,
yeah.
but I know a lot of musicians who did set up that home studio or did write more songs
Yeah.
or finished an album.
Well,
or,
there's
yeah.
silver linings, right?
Yeah.
Like we say before, nothing's 100% positive or
Yeah.
100% negative, right? And there were so many things that came out of that necessity.
Yeah.
Out of necessity, kind of breeds all this. I mean, like we, off camera earlier, we were talking about how everyone's got a setup now. Everyone
Yeah.
knows how to do this. Everyone, everyone can set up cameras. I mean, my wife and I were doing all sorts of crazy like shows out of our lounge.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like I had these spaceships set up around me, like the Written by Wolves, my band, like did like one of these Spark sessions, and I've got these things all set up in my lounge, and then we're doing we do work for this for one of the hospices in town, and so I was doing like hosting quiz nights for them from my lounge.
So cool.
And we would because they do a lot of fundraising events, and they did this one like called Gin and Jammies, and so me and my wife are singing in the lounge, and all these crazy drunk middle-aged women are sitting there drinking gin in their lounges at the same time
For a good cause.
Yeah, all for a good cause.
Love it.
Yeah,
That's cool,
but that's out of necessity. You have to develop these skills. Like I say, I always wanted to set up a studio. I always wanted to learn how to use it. I always wanted to have the gear.
Yeah.
But I just knew that I was probably never going to get round to it until I had to. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden that was it.
Yeah. And now it's a
Yeah.
massive part of what you do.
Yeah.
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 There you go.